Thank you, Olga, for receiving us in your offices. And we are very proud and honored to be here at the ITC. And we just recently gave a presentation on the modifications and cheating devices for emission testing and emission control of heavy good vehicles. But in a more global context, which you are taking care of, also in your position, what are, in your view, the biggest global challenges in order to reach the global net zero vision? That is a question everybody is really asking us, and I'd like to pose it to you.
Okay, Oliver, thank you for coming to Geneva as every year and making a demonstration for participants of our Inland Transport Committee session. This year we have a very special session of our Inland Transport Committee because, first of all, it's first time that by decision of UN ECOSOC, it was open for global accession. So now we have 152 member states, what is first year in this composition. And second, we have quite interesting topics that we deal with this year. And this is climate change that you are asking about and the road safety. Climate change, the biggest challenge is, of course, we had in December, it was in October, sorry, COP27 in December, we saw COP15 on biodiversity in Montreal, COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh. Well, I don't need to speak that we have is the scientific evidence that we have climate change. We can see it on increasing temperatures, on rising seawater, on intense weather events around the world. So really, it is with us, unfortunately. And as I told today, it's like the clock is ticking seconds before midnight. It calls for our action. So what is the action you are asking me? Of course, in my opinion, it's energy transition to the clean energy. Our energy division is working very hard on those topics. For instance, this year to Sharm el-Sheikh, we went on the topic of critical raw materials, that lithium that we need for batteries and the chrome that we need for windmills and many of them, cobalt. Without them, we cannot make this transition happen. And we need much more of them. Or, my favorite, we need to go to circular economy just to regain those critical raw materials from the used materials that, because today the global circularity is just 8.6%. So we are in linearly growing way, exhausting natural resources from the planet. And we are not able to close the circle just by 8.6%, what is really bad. So, energy transition, and then today speaking about the transport, we know that the 23% of the global CO2 emissions are coming from the transport. From that, 71% is coming from the inland transport that our Inland Transport Committee is dealing with. And from that, another 70% is from the road transport itself. And this is why I liked your demonstration of DEKRA today, about manipulations of those detections of emissions after treatment systems. So what can we do? Because one of our very substantive work of our Working Party 29 on the harmonizations of vehicles is how to limit emissions from the road transport. So you are helping us with your technologies to achieve our goal. Starting from 70s, we were able to decrease those limits for emissions by 95% in our region. What is a success? But, well, we are never doing enough.
Yeah. But you're raising a very important point. On the one hand is the making legislation happen and agreements happen. But the other aspect is the enforcement. The enforcement, and you see it with the demonstration, there is something into force, but many of the actors are trying to cheat. And that is unlucky. It's not your business, of course, but you see how all these different actions are and have to go hand in hand and should be integrated. And that brings me to another point. In order to meet all these climate goals, I think you're following, of course, from the UN side, also a multi-level approach, because very often mentioned also today, on the one hand, it's good to have sustainable development goals, but on the other hand, you need to have the contracting parties, the states, and of course the implementation of it on a local basis. And I think it's nitty-gritty and a big puzzle, but I think everything has to work and to be integrated together. And but how do you reach out to, let's say, these local levels? Do you have means to reach local initiatives and activities which are helping you to reach the goal?
Both questions are good, Oliver. So I start with the first one. You stated that the parties or operators are cheating on that emissions controls. Look, we are a regulator. We are issuing standards, norms, recommendations. We can help countries to increase or build the capacity, how to implement the frameworks that experts on our convening platform are producing. Then we need innovative technologies that DEKRA has available, and then, of course, we need enforcement authorities, and this is already in the national level responsibility in legislation, this enforcement. Well, again, we will have always these challenges, but working nicely together, I believe we see also over the years we are like improving. There are still many other industries that need to contribute to the common goal.
Yeah.
So, and we all know the Paris Agreement is our common goal, and to keep the global warming below 1.5 degrees of Celsius. And it, of course, is related to not only CO2 emissions, because we have another greenhouse gases that are also dangerous and even more potent sometimes. On the local level, I absolutely agree with you. Everything starts from local. How to connect it? We were thinking in UNECE years ago, and I'm proud that back in 2018, we indeed made first pilot. We call it Forum of Mayors. Yeah. So we invited mayors, it means the city leaders from the region, and we started to work with them on Agenda 2030 and Sustainable Development Goals. It's amazing work. Yeah. Because I believe that the local governments are more, first of all, closer to people. Yeah. They are decision makers. They are powerful in what they are doing. They are much better implementators than the governments. Of course, yeah. And I really enjoy the work with mayors. So since 2018, it started to grow. Now we had it formal, and more mayors are attending Geneva, even beyond UNECE region, because they are interested. For them, many times the Agenda 2030 is something new that they didn't know so well. As we do, for instance, on the national level, we call it VNRs, voluntary national reviews of implementation of individual goals and targets. We started to do local voluntary reviews. So the cities at the local level voluntarily started to do that. They like it, yeah. And they are asking us for guiding them. Of course, it goes with our capacity because it's additional work, but I see the mayors, how enthusiastically they engage in that. And I must say that Switzerland, and namely Geneva, is an excellent host city, because Geneva also is interested to create a Geneva City Hub, and they are very much supportive for our work and indeed financially, because without the support of Geneva City and the mayor of Geneva, we wouldn't be able to organize this forum of mayors every year. But it's really, you know, they can share examples, because we have cities literally from Vancouver to Vladivostok, you know, starting in Tajikistan to Canada, you know, and those cities and experience, of course, each one has a different specific conditions, but they're absolutely amazing to share their best practices, technologies, and we saw such innovations that I never thought about them, that they are existing. Really, we like this part of it.
And they are learning from each other.
Exactly.
Practically. It's interesting. We have something in the road safety area, which is on a tiny little level, but mirroring a bit your expectations and your views on things. We have this Vision Zero map for roads, for fatal accidents in cities. And that is quite interesting to see that also there, over a number of years now, we have a number of cities who are really able to contribute and to not really teach, but give advice, if needed, to other cities and to tell them what they have done good in road safety, for example. And these are very tiny little projects, but they're very effective. Yeah. And in the sustainability world, I think it's, as you said, also super interesting to see.
And namely, we know that in 2050 there will be 70% of European population living in cities.
Yeah.
So there is a lot to do.
Definitely.
And road safety, one very important aspect as well.
Thank you, Olga. Thank you for having us and giving us some insights into your future planning and experience. Thank you a lot. And
it was my pleasure, Oliver. See you soon. Always happy to cooperate with DEKRA.